What's up, guys? Just coming back again with another video, obviously. Gonna do a couple things again different this week, but probably try and keep some of the shitty picks going at least, right? I don't want to win all my money back. So just a quick heads up here. Obviously, I'm going to be making this video. I'm probably going to be making another video towards the end of this week and kind of getting away from the one video a week format, mainly because I've been having a lot more luck, or at least seeing the board a little bit better later in the week. So like last week I put it on Monday, the week before that didn't have a video, the week before that I believe it was like on a Tuesday, and those videos they didn't do so well, but a lot of it was by the time Sunday came around I had different plays that I had not published. So I'm gonna be making two videos. I'll make one with this here, and probably have a second one either Friday afternoon or Saturday morning, showing kind of what's changed, if anything, as well as some additional picks or maybe some leans at least that come up between now and then. So bad news first, and that is that the picks that I gave out on the last video went 1-6, possibly 2-6, depending on what you did live. So shitty week, right? Obviously. But good news is, had I just followed my schedule and just given y'all the picks that were written on my schedule, the schedule that I literally create in the off season, like in July, that I have shown y'all several times in these videos, we would have gone 4-3. So just kind of a shot to the trachea here, right? Like, just follow my fucking schedule, you idiot. You already have everything I need, or I already have everything I need. Just follow the damn schedule. So with that being said, I'm going to go over what the schedule says for this week. And this week, the reason I even looked at it and the reason I'm bringing it up is because this is the start of the quote-unquote rest advantage, right? As far as like what has really proven successful. I know we talked off season and then at the beginning of the season about rest advantages, disadvantages, travel, and all that kind of stuff. And for the most part, didn't really harp on it too much at the beginning of the year. And I even told y'all to not really put too much, weight into that, because towards the beginning of the year, yeah, a team may have, a Thursday night game, so they have a couple extra days rest, or maybe they play Monday night, so they lose a little bit of rest. But, weeks 1 through 4, 1 through 5, it's really not a big deal. And then you get into bye weeks, and it's like, okay, well, maybe one team has a bye week, the other team doesn't. Still not a huge thing, even through like weeks 8, 9, 10, unless there's like injuries involved, or unless one team just hasn't taken a bye yet and the other has, something like that. So a lot of that stuff is just kind of picky and hard to really narrow down. Once you get to week 14, though, we do have a very sticky stat when it comes to rest advantage, and I'm going to give you last year's numbers and then the teams that meet the criteria for this year. On top of that, we have some teaser numbers that have come out from Wager Talk, and I'll give you guys the bookmarks or whatever, right? That the footnotes and the bibliography and all that crap as I'm going through the stats, because it's not just stuff that I'm making up, it's not just stuff that I'm tracking. So I'll give you, kind of show you my work, right? So anyways, for week 13, like I said, I went 1-6. The one that did hit last week was the Texans-Browns under 21.5 for the first half. The actual number was 23.5. I gave you that number before it even came out, so it was higher, so it was even easier cover. But that one did go according to plan. Deshaun Watson, pretty rusty in that first half. Texans played, the way they play in the first half, very slow, very much running the ball. So easy win, easy cover on that one. That was really the only thing that was easy. After that, we had Washington -1 at the Giants for the first half. That pick was actually looking pretty good until late in that second half, when the Giants get a field goal and tie it up 13-13 going into the half. Colts +9.5 at the Cowboys. That was an early number. Like I said, this is one of those things that had really changed by the end of the week. It was already at Colts +11, and I actually took it at Colts +11. Still didn't cover, obviously. Colts got their ass handed to them, but for a first half of that game, it was actually looking like a pretty competitive game, and like this is gonna, even if the Colts lost, that they were gonna at least keep it within that one score or so. obviously wasn't the case. But the flip side of that is, and I even said this back then, we were looking to get the Cowboys at a lower number during the live game. And in that early first half, you could have gotten the Cowboys at like -6.5, -7. I didn't do a full unit because I was hoping to get the Cowboys -3. But I did get them at Cowboys -6.5. So I did take that number, which kind of offset at least some of the loss there. That was it for the other two picks, and I even said to make these half unit plays, was Chiefs -2.5 at the Bengals. Really great game to watch, but obviously wrong side on that one. Dolphins +3.5 at the 49ers. Another game that looks really, really lopsided when you look at the score, but through about 3/4 of that game, it was pretty competitive, and that +3.5 was definitely in play until later in that game. And then the last one here is the teaser that we had, which was the Steelers up to +7.5 against the Falcons, and then the Broncos Ravens -2. Steelers actually outright win that game, so that was obviously good. The Ravens win their game, but they only win by 1. They only scored freaking 10 points, and that, not to say that it would have gone too much differently, but Lamar Jackson does get hurt. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard of that by now. If he stays in the game, possibly they get the cover, right? And I would say probably more likely than not, the Ravens get the cover if he's healthy in that game. So that's kind of the recap on what we actually talked about and the play that we put on there. As far as the plays that we had in the schedule, and again, this is a schedule that I've had since, I would say, July or maybe August, so at the very latest. And it hasn't changed any. I haven't done anything. Go back and watch the other videos. Nothing has changed in this other than maybe some grammar issues. But these are the picks that were on the schedule. So we had the Cowboys, and the reasoning behind this one was the Cowboys are playing home and home, and the Colts played on Monday Night Football and traveled to Dallas. So basically, rest advantage, right? That one wins. The Chiefs and the Dolphins both started a 3-game road trip. That was the reasoning for this one, because teams with 3 consecutive road games cover the first game at 56% clip, and that's over like a 7-year time span. Both of those teams did not cover, obviously. Steelers rest disadvantage Monday night, blah, blah, blah. So that was that was going to point us to the Falcons, because the Steelers had a rest disadvantage. Now, that was a very small line, obviously. It was Falcons -1 or Falcons pick 'em, depending on when you got it. Didn't matter. Obviously, they lose that one. So 1-3 so far. It's not looking good. But the other picks here that were given by the schedule, the Giants coming off their mini bye. So, again, going back to rest advantage. Again, this is the first of 2 games. So, obviously, Giants get the cover there. The Lions off the mini bye, again, another rest advantage spot that the schedule would have put us on, which would have taken us to 3-3. And then the Vikings, again, rest advantage. And the Vikings are actually playing at home, and the Vikings' home field advantage has been huge over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years. And that's aside from the COVID year. The Vikings have got a huge home field advantage that I don't think has been talked about enough by pretty much anybody out there. So with that one, the schedule itself, had we just followed it straight, would have gone 4-3 last week. So let's talk about this week. And as you can tell, the rest advantage again is kind of just poking its head out, prairie dogging it, showing that this is something we can stick to. Now, last year, from week 14 through 18, and I'm just going to read it straight off the screen, so get ahead of me if you want to. But favorites with the rest advantage covered 54.7% of the time. Favorites with equal rest covered only 45% of the time. So typically around this time of year, favorites, if it's equal rest, are a little overvalued. Favorites with rest disadvantage only covered 40% of the time. And then 4-point dogs with a rest disadvantage, 4 points or more, with the rest disadvantage covered only 42% of the time. So right around now, first of all, you don't want to be putting your money on a team that has a rest disadvantage. Again, these are the numbers specifically from last year, but even looking at last week, you can tell that the rest advantage, even if it's just a day, 3 days, whatever, definitely does play a role here. And that's not to mention travel. So aside from just, they played on Thursday, this team played on Sunday, let's look at some teams that are playing 2 weeks in a row, on the road. 3 weeks in a row on the road, and we'll kind of make a quick look at all that. So the teams that meet some of that criteria: Jets and the Bills. So the Bills are off the mini bye. They played last Thursday. Jets played Sunday. So the Bills have the rest advantage there. It's currently Bills -9. I really like that one. I think the Bills are just going to outright slaughter the Jets in this one. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this one go up, to 10 by the time we get to kickoff. The Pats at the Cardinals. So this is something that I want to look into a little bit more and kind of see where this number goes, because it's been kind of hovering around 1.5 to 2.5 depending on where you're looking at. But the Cardinals coming off a bye week. Now the Patriots also played Thursday, so they're both coming off a little bit more rest than usual, but the Cardinals obviously didn't play it at all last week, so they have the bigger rest advantage. Now they are playing at home, so one thing I don't like about this is the bye week, coming off the bye week and staying at home. Not typically a good mix, but it does fit the rest advantage criteria. Now the team, again, with the rest disadvantage and a favorite, only covers 40% of the time. So that's the Patriots. The Patriots are the favorites this week. They are playing with a rest disadvantage. So we would expect the Cardinals to cover about 60% of the time in this particular scenario. The Bills, on the other hand, I forgot to mention this. The Bills obviously are the favorites, so we would expect them to cover about 54 to 55% of the time. So the Cardinals here are looking to be the play, but I personally am going to tease them mainly because of the number that they are at. Because, like I said, they are anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5, depending on when you look at the line and what line you're looking at. And we'll get into who we're going to tease them with here in just a minute. But the next rest advantage team is the 49ers. So the Buccaneers did play on Monday night, so they're going to be having a rest disadvantage automatically. But on top of that, they are traveling across the country. So they're going to be going from Tampa Bay to San Francisco. So literally entirely across the country to play this game on what is already going to be short rest. 14 points. I'm sorry, it is week 14. 49ers are the favorites. So again, we would expect them to cover about 55% of the time. Now the Buccaneers, as of right now, are 3.5-point dogs. As soon as they get to 4, the odds that they are going to cover drop drastically. It goes from roughly about 45% to 42%, so a 3% drop in what we're looking at there. So pretty nice little drop off if and when it gets to 4, and I fully expect that this number is going to get to 4. The only thing that I think has kind of saved it from getting there is Purdy is the quarterback right now for the 49ers, and maybe that gives us a better line if you want to be on the 49ers this week. I personally will be on the 49ers this week. I'm going to be looking to get them at a +3 if it ever pops up, so I am waiting on this line just to kind of see where it goes. Same thing with that Cardinals line. Now Eagles Giants, this is another one where the Eagles are traveling, and so the last week did not go well for this particular trend, but typically teams with 3 consecutive road games, and they do cover game 1 56% of the time. So it went 0-2 last week. We're looking to kind of change that, obviously, and so even if one of them were to cover, right, so 1 out of 3, 33% of the time, we would be expecting some regression. So I am expecting the Eagles to cover this game. Now, because of where their line is at right now, it's Eagles -6.5. I may be looking to tease them as well. We're going to see where this line goes. It's possible the Giants take some money a little bit later in the season, or I'm sorry, a little bit later in the week, because they are playing in New York. But we're going to, again, kind of hold off on that one just until we get a little bit more line movement, or at least the juice kind of pointing us to a certain direction. Miami at the Chargers. So Miami, this is their 2nd consecutive road game. So again, travel is going to be a factor here. And they are, again, playing at LA. So they are going to be playing completely across the country from where they were at. Now, they are staying out west. So they have been on the road here because they went from San Francisco to Los Angeles. So not a huge trip, but they haven't been home either. So I'm going to take the Chargers here plus the 3 points. This last one I'm not touching, but just it fits the criteria here. So again, Kansas City is on their 2nd road game, and they or again, would only be expected to cover about 44% of the time. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be on this one, mainly because the Broncos barely score, more than the nerdy kid at a dance or whatever you want to put there, right? So I'm not touching it, but it does fit the criteria if you want it to be on the Broncos. So that's what I'm looking at. Like I said, the one play that the one play that I'm going to get on right now is the Chargers +3, mainly because I think that's not going to be there towards the end of the week. 49ers -3.5 is the other one that I'm looking to play. If I can get it at -3, even better. If it goes to -4, I'll still grab that. The games that we're going to tease here. So one of them I already alluded to. That was the Eagles and the Cardinals. So we're taking the Eagles down from 6.5 or 7, depending on when you get this number, down to basically a pick 'em, right? So either 1 point or half a point against the Giants. And then we're going to take the Cardinals from 1.5 up to 7.5, or from 2.5 up to 8.5, depending on when you get this line. Both ways, obviously, we're getting the 6s and the 3s. In the Cardinals particular game, you're going to get through the 7. So you're getting a lot of key numbers, and they both are going to be coming into this game with, I just said the Cardinals are coming with the rest advantage, but they're both coming in with at least a trend behind them that should give us a little bit more confidence in those picks. Now the other one, and this is one thing I did want to touch on, I have had more luck, like I said, not just at the end of the week, right, like Saturday, Sunday, even Sunday morning, but I've noticed that I actually have a better hit rate this year doing the exact opposite of what has been ingrained in me for about 5 years now. All of the typical like sharp acronyms and things like that, or euphemisms, they didn't work for me. And if you listen to other podcasts and YouTube channels and things like that, and I'm sure you do if you're listening to this, you probably have noticed that a lot of the guys that you're following and listening to have not been having great stellar seasons. I listen to probably, I would say, 6 to 7 podcasts and YouTube channels on a regular basis, and out of all of those, I don't think any one of them has had a great season. I think, as a matter of fact, most of these guys, and these are like professional, they don't have a 9 to 5, they're just strictly betting all day, type of guys, they are not necessarily in the black. One of them I know for sure just last week finally got back in the black, and I think he's up like 6 units or something like that for the year. But mind you, this is someone who last year was, I think they finished the season at like up 54, 55 units, like a pretty significant gain. So he's well under that, and I think even going into last week, he was like -9. Aside from that, a lot of other guys that, they're not giving like their unit size or anything, they've just had a really tough go this year of picking, me included. And it's, again, doing a lot of the stuff that, the quote-unquote sharp community does has not really paid off this year. The Wong teasers have not been great. The only reason I'm teasing that Eagles-Cardinals game is, again, because there's some other trends behind it that are giving me the confidence to do so. But if you were just one of these guys who's like, I'm going to take everything up from 2.5 to 8.5, it just hasn't really worked, and vice versa. One thing that has been, again, just like unknown, right, in the betting community as far as the NFL is concerned, is that you do not bet, or you do not tease totals. You don't tease totals. You don't bet the morning of the games. Like, you're not supposed to be betting Sunday morning, right, unless you are trying to maybe hedge something or you're trying to middle something. And these things have not really been fruitful this year. What I have had some success with the last 2 weeks or so, and I really hadn't even talked about it, is teasing totals. Before you run away, let me just tell you, as I have kept track of scores and totals and things like that this year, the key numbers of 43 and 44 have been hitting at a pretty significant rate. Typically, any one number as far as totals go, you're looking at like 2 to 3% of the time as like the very high end, because it's just so erratic. 43 and 44 together have been coming out about 6 to 7% of the time. So it's a pretty high number. For that reason, I am going to be teasing a total this particular week, or this week, and that is the Ravens Steelers under. So they are under right now 37. I'm actually going to do a 7-point teaser, another item that I typically don't do. Typically just stick with the 6-point teasers because of the juice, but I am going to do a 7-point teaser. So that's going to take them from 37 to 44. So I'm going to get the key numbers of 41, 43, and half of the 44. The other side of that tease is going to be the Bills. So we're going to take the Bills from -9 down to -2. So that's more in line with like your typical, long teaser. Last week, the game that I did this on, and I actually did something else that you're not supposed to do, a same game teaser. I teased the Chargers with their total to the over. So their total was at 49. It brought it down to 43, and then it took the Chargers, believe, to plus 8.5 is what it was when I finally got it. The Chargers lost by 7, and the total ended up at 47, right in the middle of the teaser. So, again, that's just an example of what I personally did last week, and I'm just throwing that in there just to give you a little bit of, hey, this is where I'm seeing some success at, even though it's not necessarily making its way to the channel. So, Ravens Steelers under 44 with the teaser, and the Bills -2 against the Jets. So, that's going to be the other teaser. So far it's 2 teases and then 2 plays, Chargers +3, 49ers -3.5. Now, aside from that, I did want to talk about the teaser numbers. And so this is actually from Wager Talk, and if you go to the their Twitter account, I believe it's Ralph Michaels is the guy who actually tracks these things. If you look at the teaser success this year, there's a couple of numbers that have had some really good success when it comes to dogs, right? So the away dog teasers, specifically away and dogs, if they are a dog of 1.5, 1 or 1.5 points, that record has gone 7-1 this year. So if you've teased an away dog that was only a dog by 1 to 1.5 points, it's gone 7-1. Now, aside from that, another spot that's really shown some great success is away dogs that are from 3.5 to 4-point dogs, right? So right around those key numbers of 3, 3.5 to 4-point dogs, if you tease them up by 6, that record has gone 13-2. So roughly about 86% hit rate on that particular teaser, that teaser leg. Now, what about away favorites? Away favorites have shown some success as well, but it's going to be more in that 6 to 6.5 point range. So at 6.5 points, the away favorites have gone 3-1. At the 6-point line, so an away favorite who's a favorite of 6 points has also gone 3-1. So if you can get a favorite at around that line, there's about a 75% chance you're going to hit that particular line. Now, taking these stats back, so not just this year, but over the last 6 years or so, those away favorites of 6 to 6.5 points have covered at about 84%. The record there is going to be, so it's 22-4 for the 6-point favorites, and then 35-7 for 6.5 point favorites over the last 6 years. So the away favorites of about 6 to 6.5, which is exactly where the Eagles are at, which is exactly where I want to take them, and they are the away favorites. Now, on the other side, when we look at the home dogs or home favorites, right? A home dog of 1.5 points, of 1 point teased, so obviously through to the 7, has gone 5-1-1. So that's 83-3 on the season. Now, if you want to take maybe a bigger dog, right? So obviously the key numbers are again around 3, 3.5. So the 3, 3.5, or 4-point dog, a home dog, tease up altogether has gone 20-1 for the season. 20-1. So if you're teasing a dog of 3 to 4 points, a home dog that is, 20-1, you have well over a 90% chance of hitting that particular teaser leg. So as we go through the rest of the season, the couple weeks that we have left, finding those home dogs, especially if they have a rest advantage, definitely a heavy bet on spot. Now, the home favorites, teasers, right? Obviously, so a home favorite of about 7.5 to 8 points is really where you want to be at. So home favorites of 8 points this year teased down to 2. There's only been one, and that was as of before last week. That went 1-0. Is really the only one that has stood out. Now, if you go to a bigger home favorite to 10-point favorites, that's gone 5-0-1. So 100% hit rate in the fact that it's hasn't had a loss yet, but a 10-point favorite at home teased down. So that's kind of where we're at with the Bills. With the Bills, as of right now, again, they're 9 to 9.5 points. There's only been 3 games that have kind of fit that criteria this year, and it's 2-1. So, not great for a teaser, but by no means is it something to get off of. Now, again, looking at historical trends over the last 6 to 7 years, the spot you really want it to be at with a home favorite is at -7.5. A -7.5 home favorite over the last 6 years, or 7 seasons, I should say, has gone 44-6 to 88% hit rate. So anywhere from 7.5 to 8, or up to 10, in that range somewhere is where you want to be at. And it doesn't, it's not a big surprise. It makes sense. You're going to be cutting through those key numbers, typically, the 6s, the 7s, and 3s, and things like that. So just wanted to put some numbers behind that. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is probably the biggest thing I'm going to tell you today, and this is something that will probably be my biggest bet of the season. And I don't typically, tell anyone to make like a 5-unit play or some, whale play or anything like that. I'm not fucking Vegas Dave over here. But there's a few spots this year that have come up that I've really, really loved, and I've put some bigger wagers on, and there's only been about 2 of them this year, and they both hit. The one that I talked about here on the channel was the Cowboys and the Vikings. Pretty confident on that play. Obviously, that hit. The Cowboys blew these guys out of the water. Next week, week 15, you have the Giants going to Washington. This is one of those games where essentially every trend, every aspect, everything that I have seen, everything that we've put together over this entire season is pointing towards Washington in this game. Now, it is a divisional rematch, and it's coming just 2 weeks, or 1 week really, after their first matchup. So in those games, the team that won the first game only covers 30% of the time. Now, it was a tie, right? So there's no fucking winner that we can go off of with that. But after rewatching the game, the Giants really should have won that game. They let up on everything towards the end of that game. They were up 7. They let Washington come back, get the tie, and just, take it to overtime and then do a whole bunch of damn nothing. The Giants should have won that game. The Giants were at home. The Giants had a mini bye. They covered, which is great. That's what we wanted, at least as far as betting is concerned. But they should have won that game. Now, as far as Washington is concerned, Washington is going into the bye week. The Giants are getting ready for another divisional opponent. The Giants are going to be focused on the Eagles this week. So they didn't lose, so they're probably not too worried or focused. Now, maybe I'm sure there's some group of people even that work for the Giants that are studying that Washington tape, and they're going to be going into next week and looking forward to the Washington game. But I don't think their main focus is on that Washington team. They're trying to still catch the Eagles. They still have an outside shot of doing that if they were to beat them this week and they play the Eagles another time later this season. That's their main focus this week. Washington, on the other hand, has a bye week. They're going to be playing at home. So they're going to go into next week not only with the home field advantage, not only with the rest advantage, they're also going to be going with the, basically the preparation advantage, because they're going to have had a whole week off to prep for the team that they just played and tied with and should have lost to and didn't cover with. They have a whole week to game plan, prepare for this, even watch another game, watch more film against the Giants, get their guys healthy. The Giants already had a bye week earlier this week. Washington obviously had not. So the Giants not only came off of their mini bye, but the Giants already had a bye week. So if anything, just looking at season long, picture here, the Giants had a bigger rest advantage even than the couple days than we were talking about. They should have won that game. They didn't do it. Washington's coming in here healthier. They got some players back. They got Chase Young back. They're just everything here is pointing towards Washington. Now Washington is already a -4 favorite for next week. I would start putting something down on that sooner than later. You don't have to do it right this second, but maybe Friday or Saturday, get something down on that game. And I'm saying that because there's very little chance of that number going down. Unless the Giants go out there and put an ass whipping on the Eagles, if they run the Eagles out the damn stadium, maybe Washington goes down to -3. But anything else, an injury to Daniel Jones, to Saquon, any additional injuries, right? Like let's say they have 2 or 3 injuries. The Giants are already playing with backup linemen. Injuries to the defensive side of the ball, to Thibodeau. Any of these really crucial guys on that team, and that line goes up. The Eagles go out and trounce the Giants. They win by 20 points. That line's going up. Everybody's going to remember that, and everybody's going to realize that Washington is has the rest advantage here, and they're going to be looking at that next week. So I could see that line going from 4 to 6, maybe even 6.5 as we get into next week. So Washington -4 is the play. Last thing, guys, and I will leave y'all with this and let you have a good day and get the hell out of here. I mentioned briefly the Eagles Cardinals tease. Obviously, that's still, I just said it. We're definitely going to go with that play. But once the Eagles cover, right, they get our cover for us, and that leg is done. One of the beautiful things I love about this teaser is that the Eagles are playing earlier on Sunday. I think they're even playing like the noon game, so it's a pretty early game. The Cardinals are playing the Monday night game, the Sunday night game. With that being said, once you know that first leg is covered with the Eagles, you can go back and hedge or do whatever you want to either maximize or to hedge your loss in that Cardinals game. So, if you wanted to take the Cardinals on the money line to maybe increase your win, great. More likely than not, you may want to look to take the Patriots, because the Patriots are probably going to be at a -120, somewhere around that, that ballpark. It is the Monday night game. Sorry, I just wanted to go back and reevaluate that. But yeah, it's the Monday night game. So once the Eagles get their cover down, if you want to take the -120 on the Patriots side, or if you want to take the Cardinals money line, or if you wanted to tease the Patriots or something else and try to get a middle, there's all sorts of ways that you can either hedge or double down on this game. So just keep that in mind, and if you do follow me on that one, and once the Eagles get their side of the cover, and they will fucking cover, keep that in mind and remember that you do have some outs there, or ways to increase your winnings if you want to do that. So thanks again, guys. Hopefully this was a little more informative as far as giving you actual numbers and pictures and all that pretty stuff. So thanks again. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for not, tarring and feathering me and running me through the streets. So you guys have a good day. Good luck, and I'll see y'all again soon.